Afternoon all. We're honoured to have my good friend Paul Georghiou here. He's just won the Herts Congress over the weekend with 4 out of 5, and he's going to do most of the talking for this video because it's his game against the IM. So what's his name? Daniel Fernandez.
Daniel Fernandez.
Fernandez, sorry, yes.
Who Trish done a video earlier of his loss to him.
Yes, it wasn't very pleasant, was it?
But in the following round, I actually beat him. Apparently he's an IM rated 23-44, and he's only 16 and from Singapore.
How many IMs have you beaten, Paul?
I don't know.
But loads in weekends, but not that many in FIDE time control.
I haven't played very many people in FIDE time control at all.
Do you think it's a travesty of justice that you're not a FIDE master?
Not really.
So you've been lurking under 2300. You're one of those dark horses under 2300, yeah?
Not really.
But the IMs, they don't fear you because you haven't got any FIDE titles. So really, you're underestimated.
They don't beat me very much.
Okay. So you were whites and you kicked off with...
Okay, so I'm white and I played D4, my most frequent move, and he responded with the unusual move B5.
So he's taking the mickey. He's trying to play like Miles against Karpov or something, a souped up French defence, trying to sort of deprive, maybe B4 to try and get a pressure on the light squares later, I assume.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly what he did. He said he'd played this before a few times, but I don't think it's a very good choice against a slightly weaker player. It gives me a nice centre and easy game. So I played E4, and he played Bishop B7. And here I can actually take the pawn on B5, which is one way of playing it, and then after he takes on E4 I play Knight F3, castle, and develop quickly. But
he gets a centre pawn, isn't that a bit dangerous to give opponent a centre pawn for a flank pawn?
He does, but I'm going to get another tempo on the bishop on E4. Also his D pawn's pinned. It's another way of playing it.
Right. Okay. So you kept your centre intact though.
And I played a normal move, Bishop D3. And he played E6.
So it's like a sort of strange French defence.
Well, it's like St George, but he hasn't actually played A6. I'm not even sure what it's called. It's not St George, it's not a Polish. And I played Knight F3, which is natural. And he played B4.
Okay.
Gaining space on the queen side.
Yes.
And so I just carried on. Castles, why not?
Yes.
He played Bishop E7.
Yes.
And I thought against central control, so I played C4.
Yes, it seems nice, that C4 move. Logical. And you could even try and squash the bishop later, maybe. If you get up this pawn structure here, maybe. Yeah. But you give up the dark squares. You don't want to do that. And the idea is just to get, not necessarily to play D5, is it?
I mean, it depends on the position, but I may well play D5. And if he plays D5 himself, I'll take it and then block in the bishop.
You mean you take with CD and you play E5?
I can actually take with either pawn and block in the bishop.
What one would be your preference here? C takes?
Possibly C takes, but either are possible.
And then E5?
Then E5.
You wouldn't worry about him getting the F5? He's in no position to get the F5 squares here?
No.
Okay.
And the pawn on C7 is weak as well.
Yeah. C7, yeah, for that C file, yeah. Okay. Okay. So he's not going to play D5. So he plays actually A5.
He plays A5, yes. And well, I'd play Rook E1. Wait and see. And he plays D6.
Yes. So
I just carry on with my development. Knight Bd2.
This is very nice, very Roy Lopez manoeuvre type knight manoeuvre coming up, isn't it? Very, very nice. Was the Roy Lopez the inspiration for this knight manoeuvre, or does it seem like a good attacking plan generally to get a knight to G3?
Well, it's just a logical way of manoeuvring the knight round to attacking position.
Given that he's deprived you of C3, it's probably the only sort of attacking route, isn't it? About one of the few decent attacking routes.
Well, I'm waiting to see what he does. If he plays something like E5, the knight may go to E3 and then D5. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, I'm waiting to see what he actually does.
Yeah. So Knight F6.
And I played Knight F1, another natural move, and he castled. And now his king is possibly a target now. There is E5 comes to mind, opening the diagonal towards his king.
Actually, I did emphasise in a few videos recently the weakness of the H7 square, how sometimes it is often weak in the castle king position if white, especially if you can drive away the defensive knight. I know it's crude and basic, but it often wins games, doesn't it, this idea of the H7 being weak?
It does, but of course I knew he was aware of that, but H7 does come into it later.
So you played knight g3.
Knight g3. He played knight a6. And he's thinking about c5 or e5 now. So now I decided it was ready to launch my play. So I played e5, which does give him the c5 square. But
yeah. Well, actually, probably because of the c5 square, from an engine point of view, as we briefly skimmed earlier, the engine's giving knight takes e5 is stronger here. Obviously, the d pawns can't be taken as a bishop h7. So knight takes e5. Did you consider knight takes e5, or you think you just really wanted to drive away this defensive knight?
I do really. I mean, knight takes e5. He can play c5, and black looks okay to me there.
Should we do an engine check, just or not? Up to you.
If you really want to.
So knight takes e5 is given slightly stronger than d takes e5. I don't know what you guys on YouTube would play here. Would you have chosen d takes or knight takes? It's an easier to play position, I would argue, if you can dislodge this knight and go for the hack attack. So knight takes e5. So c5, as you say. Apparently there's d5 here, and now there's big problems for black. So say takes. There's knight f5, and this is dangerous. Apparently bishop g5. White's building up an advantage here. In any case, knight takes g7. Splat.
Well, you're playing bad moves for black, though.
I know, but what's going on here with this knight sack anyway? Oh, knight g4. You see, look, if bishop e7, there's rook e7 now. Did you see this key variation here? I'm just joking, but you didn't see this, did you?
No. Amazing.
So this makes use of the knight on g3 if it can come to f5. That's pretty dangerous, isn't it? Something to bear in mind maybe for another time.
Yes, but I mean also taking on each pawn gives me an advantage in space, which is nice.
So taking on the pawn is just given as only a tiny advantage from an engine point of view. Knight d7 apparently is the better move. He played knight g4. So if he had played knight d7, all right, let's turn the monster off. Let's turn the monster off. Let's carry on with the game. He played knight g4 here. Okay.
Well, knight d7 is more solid. Knight g4 is more combative. He's got ideas of hitting the f2 pawn.
Yeah, striking with bishop c5 or something.
And actually, black's piece has gone quite active. He has quite a few tactics I have to watch out for.
And he's got that c5 square. Was that a cause of concern for you positionally, that you've given c5 up here?
Yeah, well, I thought I'd get other squares in return. But for example, after the game, he pointed out if I play queen c2 here, he's got the surprising move b3. And whichever pawn I take it with, he actually forks my queen and bishop.
Oh, blimey, winning a piece.
Well, I can take on h7, but it does get very messy.
Oh, blimey, that's just check. That's a good tactic to check. b3, apparently, it's not given. You take here. It's ruled out for some reason. Taking, you're on the bishop. So saying...
Well, you're just randomly putting moves in, but it's quite tricky.
Queen c2 again, and then say g6, you just probably take on g6. Isn't this would be dangerous for black? There's a lot of pawns there. Okay, that's it's not so winning anyway from a brutal engine point of view.
No, we thought it was unclear actually.
Yeah.
But
so you parked your queen.
There are lots
on
of
e2 safely. Yeah.
There are lots of ideas of that sort in the position.
Yeah. So black's not without resources here, dangerous resources. Yeah.
And if he plays bishop c5 here.
Yeah.
Then I can just take on h7, I believe.
Oh, because of the knight g5 and pick out the knight. Yeah, and or if he moves the king here, you just protect then f2.
Yes, I think so.
And couldn't he try and munch your bishop? There's knight g5 still. It's getting.
Well, this move's like it can get pretty complicated actually.
Yeah, there's bishop g5 anyway.
Bishop g5 and h3. It's a bit of a mess actually.
Yeah. So anyway, he played knight c5, which seems a positional move.
And I played bishop back to c2.
Now a bit of controversy he adds to the position. He tries to get more dynamism at the expense of a backward pawn, but he's blasting open the f-file for more dynamic pressure against your king.
Well, not really. The thing is, I'm going to play h3 next move, and where's the knight going? He hasn't got any squares for his knight.
He doesn't want knight h6. You just take it and then knight h5.
Exactly. So f5 is actually forced, I think. Right. Even though it gives him a backward e pawn, he can't actually do anything else.
Yeah. So you snap that off, and after the knight takes, you play Bishop e3. So what's the idea here then? What ideas did you have here?
Well, Bishop e3.
Oh, just to take on e6, to take here and take on e6.
Yeah, that's one idea. Also, just develop my rook on d1, hitting the queen.
Yes.
Maybe Bishop d4 and knight e5.
Were you happy with the position at this point? You were quite confident here.
I thought I was slightly better, but
you got no problem pieces. There's harmony. There's good teamwork in your pieces.
I thought his pieces can become quite dangerous. I have to watch out for
there's coordination
on f3 and
there's coordination, isn't there? Potentially. Okay, so he plays rook a6, which protects that backward pawn, and also prepares a hypermodern strengthening the pressure across the diagonal. So that's quite a nifty move, actually, rook a6, isn't it? Did you expect rook a6?
No.
So did you think it was quite good?
I'm not sure if it is or not. That rook does wander around a bit later, not doing very much. So I play the natural knight e5, and here I was expecting queen d6, but then I've got bishop f4.
Right.
And I'm not sure what's happening there. His queen may be in a bit of a mess, but he may have some kind of tactic. I don't know.
Oh.
But he went to a8 instead.
Yes.
And after the game, he suggested I should have played knight h5 here, which would have been quite dangerous, and he shouldn't then take the g-pawn. And we looked at it, and it seemed to be quite dangerous to take the g-pawn.
Let's put an engine point of view on that. Taking the g-pawn. If bishop takes g2, knight takes, rook takes, queen g4.
If you're rushing through moves, it did seem quite dangerous anyway. So he said he wouldn't have taken the pawn.
Well, you got the g-file pressure. You apparently are slightly better here. Let's just follow this through. Knight e4 takes, queen takes, bishop h6. Blimey, bishop h6, bishop g5. Oh, sorry, attacking the queen. Yeah. So he's getting a bit of a responsibility with this bishop here. So you're slightly better. So taking is risky. Okay. So you played f3, which is one of probably the best move though. F3. Forget black giving black counterplay. I think that's a neat move, f3.
Well, it's just very safe and solid. I mean, it closes down the diagonal, closes down the f-file, closes down the e4 square.
It does weaken this diagonal a bit, but it's not that exploitable here, is it? This diagonal.
It does. Also cuts out my queen from h5, but you can't have everything.
Yeah.
So he played a4.
I like that attitude because in an earlier comment in this game you said about giving up squares to get other squares. So you're kind of relaxed about this. You give and take business.
Well, every pawn move weakens. So like e4 on move 1 weakens the d4 square.
Yeah. Everything's give and take basically. You just go with the flow there for the give and take.
I mean, white gains more than he loses by playing f3. So a4, continuing with the queenside attack. So I play rook a d1, and he plays the natural b3.
So he's squashing you on the queen side, really.
Well,
it's just as well your rooks come to d1 because otherwise it'd be hemmed in on a1. So that was important.
Well, in that case, I'd just take on a6, wouldn't I?
Oh right, yeah, okay. So your bishop though is fine on b1. It's still eyeing that sensitive h7 pawn.
It's still a fine piece. It's
and you've got positional trumps, but he's got some dynamic sort of potential here. But you've blunted much of it with that f3 move, the f-file on the diagonal. So you're sort of soaking up his dynamic pressure, aren't you? Really. So rook d8.
Yeah, it's a tricky position. I wasn't sure what to actually do here. It's not. I don't have a clear plan. I just thought knight d3 because that knight is rather annoying on c5.
Yes.
Maybe open up, play down the e-file again.
It's an evil Nimzovich blockading knight of your c-pawn.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much blocking. I mean, but seriously, what would you do with white in this position? It's not easy to find a plan, is it?
Yeah, because he's protecting his backward pawn. The backward pawn's quite awkward to try and exploit directly, isn't it? So I think you have to sort of attack the defender of the backward pawn.
I mean, I wonder what a grandmaster would play in this position, but it's not easy. It's not obvious what the best move is.
Yeah.
He played the knight to a4.
Which is that some relief? It's a decentralised knight. It's a knight on the rim. Knight on the rim is dim.
Well, it is a bit, but it's also hitting the b2 pawn.
Yeah, tying up. Well, your knight's protecting it as well, though. b2. So now you play.
Actually, I do wonder if he was subconsciously thinking of his first round game against Mike Lexton, where he had an advanced pawn on the queen side. pawns at the A and B files, eventually one of them queened. So maybe subconsciously he had the idea of advanced queenside pawns.
Right, a bit biased there, yeah.
Maybe there was some connection there, I don't know.
So you did find a plan here, do you think? A reasonably good idea. You played bishop f4.
I played bishop f4, hitting c7 and potentially e6.
And also, of course, the bishop can also point maybe at the black king as well on e5.
Quite possibly, yes.
So bishop c8.
And that defends the c pawn because the bishop takes c7, queen a7 check.
Oh, nasty. That would be a nasty thing to fall into. Waste of a few hours if this happened, this cheapo check. Yeah.
But I wasn't going to fall into that, was I?
No.
So I played king h1, and he played rook c6. These pieces are slightly awkward now. They're on rather odd squares.
Yeah.
So I played knight e5, centralising again.
Yeah.
And he played rook takes rook.
Yeah.
Rook takes rook. Rook d6.
Yeah. So he's still contesting the centre with that rook move.
But I want to keep a rook on the board.
Yeah.
I want to keep it in the middle game. Because in the ending my b pawn could be weak, so I want to keep some pieces on.
Yeah.
Maybe attack his king. So I think rook e1 is a good move here.
Yeah. And that horrible knight goes back to c5.
Knight goes back to c5. Where he's defending the e4 square. So I had ideas of knight e4 in that position possibly.
Yeah.
But so now I start looking at a king side attack while his pieces are still away on the queen side. So I played knight g4.
So you don't mind the double pawns here if he did take on...
Well, his rook on d6 is on priest.
Oh, sorry, yeah, of course. So knight takes, you play bishop d6.
Which wins the exchange.
Yeah. So he has to move the rook now.
But now his pieces are looking rather awkward, has to be said. So now I start eliminating his king side pieces with knight takes f6.
Yeah.
He can take with the pawn, but that's pretty risky as well. But it's possible. But he maybe has some problems already. And he took with the bishop.
Yes.
And I played knight h5.
So it's justifying this nice manoeuvre to g3 that knight has found h5 as an attacking square.
And he played bishop d4. And I played bishop e5.
Now finally, this bishop e5, this is a common theme recently I've seen in attacking games, that this bishop is often, very good across the diagonal of black's kingside, like that. Very good. It's often winning games of Tau, once he gets in this dangerous bishop.
Well, it's to exchange his key defender of g7.
I mean, if you think about it, both your bishops are really pointing down his kingside now. So it's a key defender lost. So it's starting to overload the pieces. The rook is now the guardian, but this one's also a bit weak. So these two guys are feeling the pressure. The heat is on.
And here, as you suggested, I think queen a5 is the best move.
Yeah, the engine point of view thinks black's okay with queen a5 because it ties down your queens to avoid because of queen e1. It's a basic tying down move, but also the queen can come to d2. And from an engine point of view, this is still tricky. If he had played queen a5, this is a variation from earlier. Say rook f1, queen b4 might be possible, something like this, because there could be some problems for white if white plays too routinely now. Probably a good move for white is apparently say h3 queen d2, and again black, might be. Well, at least he's not getting mated in this kind of variation. He's got good central control. He's got chances still. So it seems that he played a disastrous queen move, a bit akin to the game I had against him. That his disastrous queen move, queen c6, is the beginning of the end.
Yes, queen c6 actually loses the game. Because now I have basically a winning combination. I play queen g5.
Yeah, so there's an immediate threat now of knight f6 check, isn't there, winning the exchange.
The problem is he's got no good defence against knight f6. If he plays king f8, then I just take on h7. If there's nothing better, which there may be.
If he plays rook f7?
If he plays rook f7, then I looked at just queen d8.
Queen d8. Oh, then you've got a tactic, haven't you? Bishop h7.
Take on h7, yes.
And this should be enough. He's not taking on the queen side or anything, and you're threatening mate, so that should be good, yeah. And you're attacking the bishop as well as threatening mate. So he's run out of defence here, all of a sudden.
And of course G6 just allows knight F6.
Yeah, so this is nasty. So that's why it was very important to tie down your queen with Queen A5. So I'd say Queen A6 was a losing blunder, absolutely losing blunder.
Queen C6.
Yeah, instead of Queen A5. So he plays King H8. And now, beautiful move. And let's challenge our viewers on YouTube. So you guys, time to interact with this video. I'm going to give you 10 seconds starting from now. Can you spot Paul's next move? So you might want to stop the video, pause the video, try and work it out. Brilliant next move. So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay. Give yourself 100 points if you have spotted this next move from Paul.
I played Queen F5.
Double exclamation mark.
Which wins instantly. There's threats of mate on H7 and F8. And if black takes the queen, then rook E8 is mate.
Mate.
Looking at this with Houdini earlier, apparently white is now 40 pawns up.
Yes, give yourself an extra bonus 50 points if you can spot the mate, forced mate in 21 moves. That's a little joke. Apparently there's a forced mate in 21 moves which gets spotted at about depth 23. So if you happen to have superhuman calculation skills, you'll realise this is a forced mate. It's coming up, depth 17.
But prior to that, Houdini said white was 40 pawns up, which is quite a few.
Yeah. It's coming 38.63 up at depth 18 after King G8. It's over. It's funny that just one slight inaccuracy to give your queen that moment of having a free hand to play Queen G5 was so absolutely destructive. It's now a mate in 27. Calculate as a mate in 27.
Not 21.
I think at later depth it's going to optimise that. I think to be a quicker mate.
Okay.
Of
course,
anyway.
he did actually carry on the game rather.
All right, so let's see what
hopelessly.
He
played
King G8,
which is the best move. But
so you take on H7.
So I just took on H7, King F8, Queen H8, and King E7. And he actually resigned here.
He resigned here. It's mate in 25 anyway. So how could it have finished? Let's turn that monster off. So it could have finished with.
Well, I played Queen takes G7, obviously. If King D8, then Queen F8 is made.
Yes.
If he goes to E8, then Knight F6.
You can at least win the exchange if nothing else.
It is mate, Queen F8.
Oh.
I'm not going to win the exchange in this position.
No. So what does he do here?
So he has to go to D6.
Yeah.
But I can play Rook D1 and just take his pieces.
So, alright, he starts putting pieces in the way.
Yes.
He gets an escape square on C5 though. Are you not worried by that? I'm just joking. But let's have a look anyway. He gets this escape square, 93. Oh, even better is Queen F8 apparently instead of Rook D3. If we're being clinical about it, you don't even need to give him this. So it's a mopping up job here. Basically, yeah. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It was a fantastic win then against Lima. You were really pleased with that game, yeah? That was your best win of the tournament. Let's have a look in overview and summary. Sorry, you were really pleased, yeah?
Yeah, it's my best game of the tournament.
And you won 250 quid as well as being the Heart. You're not the Hearts champion because you're not a Hearts member at the moment.
Southern Counties champion.
You're the Southern Counties champion right now then.
Yes.
As a result of winning the tournament. Cool. That's good going. And to think we had a draw last year, a quick draw. You weren't doing so well last year though. There was another IM, wasn't there, last year, Simon not in the tournament, who won it last year.
Well, I was on 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
And I drew with you in the last round. Very quick game, you remember.
I'm sorry about that, yeah. So if either of us had won, we would have had been in contention for qualifying for the British Championship. There's a British Championship place.
We would have been first equal with Not.
Yeah. Ah, dear. Okay. Okay. So a quick overview. Sorry. So it was a neat knight manoeuvre. So an attacking position built with these knights, guys. So it's not just the royal arpeggio. You can get a nice knight to G3, and we see this idea that the H7 soft spot is demonstrated here with D takes E. So although it seems technically knight takes E5 might be better, you really got to know what you're doing with knight E5 for this D5 to get the knight to F5 later. I think this is slightly easier to play if black goes wrong, especially. But it seems as though black did generate quite a bit of dynamism when he played this F5. He was getting very active pieces. So it was great the way you kind of took your time. You established control of the centre, and this knight d3. So all very calm moves, and you kept a rook on very wisely, and you didn't mind. So you were attacking his rook there. There wasn't a structural issue. You got rid of the key defensive knight. So you're softening up the soft spot really at the moment, aren't you? And then you're softening up the next soft spot, g7. You're starting to put pressure on g7.
While removing his defensive pieces while his queen's on a8,
yeah.
and bishop's on c8.
Yeah, so these guys are getting even softer now.
Of course, I'm threatening the knight on c5 as well,
yeah.
which we didn't mention.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So he has to defend that. So the best way to defend that and also keep your queen tied down would have been queen a5 then. So that's the computer suggestion here. So after this, he's going downhill after this because of queen g5. He hasn't tied your queen down. So now you pounce like a cat, ready to pounce on the unsuspecting mouse. Queen f5.
No, I'm certain he'd seen queen f5. He thought for a long time about king h8, and I'm sure he'd seen queen f5 while he was thinking about it.
Oh right, so there's no, he doesn't want to give up the exchange or anything else.
I think he decided other moves were losing, and he thought king h8. Maybe I wouldn't see queen f5.
He's a tactical little test.
I had seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think he was well aware of it. That's my.
So now he's gone. The position's gone. He's just losing lots of material or getting mated. Okay, fantastic game, Paul. So do you reckon we should look at some Tower Memorial games next? Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look at Tower Memorial.
Or one or two, or maybe just one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Excellent. Thanks for that. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.